the penny most people ignore. Listen to me, and listen carefully, because this is the kind of mistake people make every single day, without even knowing it. Right now, somewhere near you, there could be a coin sitting unnoticed. A small penny, old, worn out, ordinary, the kind most people ignore instantly. Coins like the Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, they don't look valuable. They don't shine. They don't stand out. And that's exactly why they disappear so easily. Every single day, people throw them into tip jars, drop them into vending machines, leave them forgotten in drawers and old boxes, gone without a second thought. But here's what most people never realize. Not every penny is just a penny. Some carry hidden details, tiny differences, things so small most people never notice them. A date, a mint mark, a variation almost invisible to the average person. And while most people rush through life ignoring these details, there are others who don't. Collectors, people who look closer, people who understand that value doesn't always announce itself, because the rarest things often hide in plain sight. Now think about this. The story of the 1942 wheat penny begins in one of the most dramatic moments of the 20th century, a time when the world was surrounded by uncertainty, war, sacrifice, and transformation. Hidden inside the small copper surface of the historic Lincoln Wheat Penny is a connection to that era, a silent reminder of a nation preparing for one of the greatest challenges in its history. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary coin, but the deeper you look, the more powerful the story becomes. On the front of the coin stands the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, a figure whose face had already become one of the strongest symbols of unity and resilience in America. During 1942, Lincoln's portrait carried even deeper meaning because the nation itself was entering a difficult and uncertain chapter during World War II. The absence of a mint mark tells us this penny was struck at the historic Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia coins of that era often carried no mint mark at all, giving them a clean and classic appearance that collectors still recognize instantly today. This is where the powerful mystery begins. People hear stories about old pennies being worth fortunes, about forgotten coins hiding in drawers and jars that suddenly become life-changing treasures. The idea that a simple 1942 wheat penny could be worth millions spreads quickly because it touches something deep inside human imagination. The dream that ordinary things can hide extraordinary value. But here is the truth that grounds the story. Most 1942 wheat pennies are not worth millions. They were produced in huge numbers and circulated heavily across the country. Their copper composition alone does not make them rare enough to create instant wealth. Still, the story does not end there, because coin collecting has never been only about metal or numbers. True value comes from condition, rarity, and the tiny details that most people overlook every single day. A worn 1942 penny with scratches and fading may hold only modest value, but a coin preserved in brilliant condition can attract serious collector attention. Coins with sharp lettering, smooth surfaces, and strong original red color become far more desirable because time naturally changes copper as years pass. Collectors often search carefully for unusual details. Some look for doubled lettering, die cracks, off-center strikes, or tiny minting errors that happened by accident during production. These small imperfections can transform a common coin into something much more collectible. The excitement around these coins grows because real stories exist of rare pennies selling for incredible prices. When people hear about extraordinary coin discoveries, they begin looking at every penny differently, wondering if treasure could be hiding in plain sight. Imagine opening an old box of coins passed down through generations and spotting a 1942 wheat penny shining among the others. In that moment, the coin becomes more than money. It becomes a doorway into history, connecting the present to a world long gone. The year 1942 itself carries enormous historical weight. It was a year marked by wartime production, national unity, and global conflict. Even small objects like pennies became part of the larger story of survival and sacrifice. Copper was especially important during wartime because it was needed for military equipment and ammunition. only 1 year later, in 1943, the United States would switch pennies from copper to steel in order to conserve resources for the war effort. That makes the 1942 wheat penny one of the final traditional copper coins before that historic transition. Holding this coin today feels different because it represents a turning point in American history. It reminds people of factories running day and night, families making sacrifices, and a country adapting to extraordinary circumstances. There is also an emotional side to collecting coins like this. A 1942 penny may have passed through thousands of hands during its lifetime. Soldiers, workers, shopkeepers, families, and children all could have carried this same small piece of copper. Every scratch on the coin may represent a forgotten journey. Every faded detail hints at decades of movement through pockets, cash registers, and everyday life. That invisible history gives the coin a deeper kind of value, beyond money. Collectors study these coins carefully because the difference between ordinary and valuable can be incredibly small. One tiny minting mistake, one unusually sharp strike, or one exceptionally preserved surface can completely change how the coin is viewed. Professional grading also plays a major role in determining value. When a coin is authenticated and graded by experts, collectors gain confidence in its quality and rarity. A certified high-grade 1942 penny can become far more desirable in the collector market. The phrase, "don't spend it, it could change your life overnight," feels powerful because rare discoveries really do happen from time to time. People love the possibility that treasure might already be sitting unnoticed inside a jar or drawer somewhere. But the truth remains important. Most 1942 wheat pennies are not millionaire coins. Their value usually depends on condition, rarity, minting errors, and collector demand rather than age alone. Yet even if the coin does not bring enormous wealth, it still carries something meaningful. It carries history. It carries memory. It carries the feeling of connection between generations. The wheat design on the reverse side adds even more character to the coin. Those simple wheat stalks symbolize growth, strength, and the agricultural roots of America during a time when the country depended heavily on unity and production. Many collectors feel drawn to wheat pennies because they represent a completely different era of American coinage. Their appearance instantly feels older, warmer, and more historic than modern pennies. The 1942 wheat penny also reminds people how quickly everyday objects can disappear from circulation and become pieces of history. Something once considered ordinary slowly transforms into a collectible simply because time passes. For some collectors, the real thrill comes not from money, but from discovery itself. Searching through old pennies creates excitement because every coin holds the possibility of surprise. Imagine the feeling of turning over a dusty penny and seeing the date 1942 staring back at you. Next up, the story of the 1943 wheat penny begins during one of the most intense periods in modern history, a time when the world was consumed by war and every piece of metal carried importance. Hidden within the historic Lincoln Wheat Penny is a chapter of survival, sacrifice, and transformation that still fascinates collectors today. At first glance, this small coin may seem ordinary, but the deeper you look, the more extraordinary its story becomes. On the front of the coin stands the unmistakable face of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of unity and strength during difficult times. By 1943, Lincoln's image had already become one of the most recognized portraits in American coinage, quietly linking everyday people to the nation's history every time a penny changed hands. The D-Mint mark beneath the date tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, a major facility responsible for producing coins during a time when America needed every resource possible for the war effort. Millions of pennies were created there. But 1943 was unlike any ordinary year in coin history. This is where the powerful mystery begins. People hear stories about rare 1943 pennies selling for unbelievable amounts of money, turning forgotten pocket change into legendary treasure. The idea that one tiny coin could be worth a fortune captures imagination because it feels almost impossible. And yet, in rare cases, it became reality. But before the dream grows too large, the truth must be understood clearly. Most 1943 deep pennies are not millionaire coins. The majority were made from steel coated with zinc, giving them a silver-colored appearance instead of the traditional copper look collectors were used to seeing. The reason for this dramatic change was World War II. Copper was desperately needed for military equipment, ammunition, and wartime production. To conserve resources, the United States decided to temporarily stop making copper pennies and replace them with steel cents in 1943. That decision created one of the most iconic coins in American history. The steel penny instantly looked different from every other cent Americans had ever seen. Its bright silver appearance made it unforgettable, and even today it remains one of the most recognized wartime coins ever produced. But hidden inside this story is the reason collectors became obsessed with the 1943 penny. During production, a few leftover copper blanks from 1942 were accidentally struck with the 1943 design. These rare copper versions became legendary because they were never supposed to exist. The 1943 copper penny became one of the most famous accidental rarities in coin collecting history. While millions of steel pennies were produced, only a tiny number of copper examples are believed to survive today. This is why the myth of the million-dollar penny continues to spread across the world. People dream of finding a rare copper 1943 penny hidden in an old jar, forgotten collection, or inherited box of coins. The possibility feels almost magical. Imagine discovering an old penny with the date 1943 and realizing it does not look silver like the others. Instead, it appears copper-colored. In that moment, your heart would race because you would instantly know you might be holding something extraordinary. This emotional thrill is what keeps collectors searching year after year. Every old coin carries possibility, but few coins inspire more excitement than the legendary 1943 copper cent. Still, reality matters. Most 1943 deep pennies are the normal steel version, and while they are historically fascinating, they are generally not worth enormous fortunes unless they are in exceptional condition or possess unusual minting errors. Condition plays a huge role in value. A heavily worn steel penny may only carry modest collector interest, but a bright, sharply detailed coin with strong original surfaces can become much more desirable. Collectors carefully examine every detail. They look for sharp lettering, smooth surfaces, strong design details, and unusual features such as double dies or off-center strikes that could make the coin more unique. There is also a deeper emotional side to the 1943 D penny. This coin existed during wartime America, a period when families made sacrifices, factories worked around the clock, and entire communities united behind a national effort. Holding this coin today feels like touching a surviving fragment of that era. It passed through the hands of workers, soldiers, shopkeepers, and ordinary families trying to navigate an uncertain world. Even the steel itself tells a story. Unlike warm copper pennies, the silver-gray steel cent feels colder and more industrial, reflecting the harsh reality of wartime production and necessity. The reverse side of the coin still carried the familiar wheat stalk design, symbolizing growth and endurance. That image quietly reminded Americans that despite hardship, the nation continued moving forward. Many collectors feel drawn to wheat pennies because they represent a completely different age of American life. They are reminders of a slower world where physical money passed constantly through human hands. The 1943 steel penny also became famous for another reason. It rusted easily. Because steel reacts differently than copper, many surviving examples develop corrosion or dark spots over time, making pristine examples much harder to find today. This challenge increased collector interest even more. Finding a beautiful steel penny with clean surfaces and strong original appearance became increasingly difficult as decades passed. Professional grading adds another layer of importance. A certified high-grade 1943 D steel penny becomes more attractive to collectors because its quality and authenticity are verified by experts. The phrase "don't spend it, it could change your life overnight" feels powerful because, in extremely rare cases, that kind of discovery really has happened. Rare coins have been found in ordinary places before, but the truth remains important. The average 1943 D steel penny is not a millionaire coin. Its value depends on rarity, condition, collector demand, and whether it possesses unusual characteristics. Yet even if it does not bring enormous wealth, the coin still carries something meaningful beyond money. It carries history, survival, and the memory of a world at war. Every scratch on the coin hints at a forgotten journey through decades of circulation. Every faded surface carries silent evidence of human lives and everyday moments long gone. Next up, the story of the 1944 wheat penny begins in the shadow of war, during a time when every object carried meaning and every piece of metal mattered. Hidden within the timeless Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most fascinating chapters in American coin history. At first glance, the coin appears small and ordinary, but behind its copper surface lies a story filled with mystery, survival, rare mistakes, and the dream of unexpected fortune. On the front of the coin stands the powerful and familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of unity, endurance, and leadership. By 1944, Lincoln's portrait had already become deeply connected to American identity, especially during a period when the country faced enormous global challenges. The absence of a mint mark tells us this penny was struck at the historic Philadelphia Mint. During World War II, the Philadelphia Mint operated at tremendous speed, producing millions of coins needed for circulation across the country. This is where the mystery begins to grow stronger. People hear stories about certain 1944 pennies becoming legendary treasures worth incredible amounts of money. The idea that one forgotten coin could transform someone's life spreads quickly because it feels almost impossible, and yet history proves that rare discoveries can happen. But before imagination takes control, the truth must be understood clearly. Most 1944 wheat pennies are common copper coins. Millions were produced, and most examples found today are not worth extraordinary fortunes. Still, the 1944 penny occupies a special place in coin history because of what happened the year before. In 1943, pennies were made from steel to conserve copper for wartime production. Then, in 1944, the United States returned to copper pennies once again. That transition created one of the most famous coin errors in American history. A few leftover steel blanks from 1943 were accidentally used in 1944 production, creating rare 1944 steel wheat pennies that were never supposed to exist. This accidental mistake transformed the 1944 steel penny into a legendary rarity. While ordinary copper 1944 pennies remain common, the rare steel versions became some of the most sought-after error coins in the world. This is why stories about million-dollar pennies continue to spread across the internet and among collectors. People dream of discovering a rare steel 1944 penny hidden inside an old jar, inherited collection, or forgotten drawer. Imagine holding a 1944 penny in your hand and realizing it looks silver instead of copper. In that instant, your heart would race because you would understand immediately that you might be looking at something extraordinary. This possibility is what gives the coin its powerful reputation. Most people never expect treasure to appear in something as small and ordinary as a penny. Yet history shows that rare mistakes sometimes create incredible value. Even though the average 1944 wheat penny is not worth millions, collector interest remains strong because the coin represents an important turning point during World War II. Copper itself became symbolic during that period. It represented recovery, adaptation, and the nation's ability to balance wartime sacrifice with the need to maintain everyday life. The warm copper color of the 1944 penny also gave Americans a sense of familiarity after the unusual silver-colored steel cents of 1943. It marked a return to normalcy during uncertain times. Collectors today examine these coins with incredible attention to detail. Every surface, every letter, every edge is studied carefully in search of something rare or unusual. Condition plays a massive role in value. A worn coin with scratches and discoloration may only hold modest worth, while a beautifully preserved coin with bright original red surfaces becomes far more desirable. Collectors especially value coins that still retain their original mint luster. copper changes color over time. So finding a 1944 penny that remains bright and vibrant after decades is increasingly difficult. There are also mint errors that can increase collector interest. Doubled lettering, die cracks, clipped planchets, and off-center strikes all create unique variations that collectors enjoy searching for. The excitement surrounding rare coins comes from real stories of discovery. Throughout history, valuable coins have been found in ordinary places, inside piggy banks, old collections, estate sales, and forgotten jars. This keeps the dream alive. Every time someone searches through old pennies, there is a tiny possibility of finding something remarkable hidden among the ordinary. Holding a 1944 wheat penny today feels like touching a surviving piece of wartime America. The coin existed during one of the most important periods in modern history. It may have passed through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, shopkeepers, or families trying to survive difficult years. Every mark on the coin hints at a journey nobody can fully trace anymore. The wheat stalks on the reverse side add another layer of symbolism. They represent strength, growth, and endurance, qualities that carried enormous meaning during the wartime era. Many collectors feel emotionally connected to wheat pennies because they instantly feel older and more historic than modern coins. Their design carries warmth and nostalgia. Professional grading services add another level of importance to these coins. When a coin is authenticated and graded, collectors gain confidence in its condition and authenticity. The phrase, "Don't spend it, it could change your life overnight," feels powerful because rare discoveries truly do happen from time to time. Hidden treasures are rare, but not impossible. However, reality remains important. Most 1944 pennies are ordinary copper cents worth only modest collector value, unless they possess exceptional condition or rare characteristics. Yet, even without enormous financial value, the coin still carries historical and emotional significance. It represents survival, adaptation, and the resilience of an entire generation. The 1944 wheat penny reminds us that even small, everyday objects can become important pieces of history over time. Something once used casually in stores and markets eventually transforms into a collectible artifact. That transformation fascinates collectors because it reflects how quickly time changes the meaning of ordinary things. Coins once ignored become windows into vanished eras. Next up,